Well, good evening. And it's great to be here, actually. Really, yes. So wonderful. You all look super good, intelligent, and fine, good looking. And in fact, it's not good. Hey, but I was told this is a Q&A, and I've been actually given the questions this morning, but unfortunately, I got in as I was leaving. And so if I say anything that doesn't make sense or that you don't understand, it's not that you're not getting it. It's not that it's my problem. It's not your fault. It's mine. I'm not giving you a good answer. Now let's see. I pray to the Holy Spirit on the way here. So, and the rules here is if you don't understand, if you disagree, if what I'm saying doesn't make sense to you, just say, hey, Father, come on, really? Or ask a follow-up question. What do you mean by that? And it's good that they be give and take. I doubt I'm going to be so brilliant and thorough that every answer is totally satisfactory. If you don't have anything, that's bad news. Okay. So let me just start with the first question, which is the following. How should we approach politics and voting when both sides lobby for and against Catholic values? So I almost don't want to vote at all, but that seems complacent. That's a very good question, really. And let's see if I can give some general principles and let's see if this helps. Because the question is really good, and it's true. I mean, I think if you look at both of our political parties, there are things that go against their faith and morals, really, and certainly against Catholic teaching on faith and morals in both of them. So our task as, and I wouldn't just say just as Catholics, but as citizens, as good people, because this applies, especially the moral issues, apply to everybody. Not just, I mean, I remember somebody telling me, well, yes, because you're a Catholic, you're against abortion, but I'm a Catholic, so it doesn't apply to me. I mean, that's absolute nonsense, right? Obviously, murder is murder for everybody. It's not just for Catholics. But just like to say, well, you Catholics, yeah, for you, birth control is wrong, but I'm a Catholic, so for me, it's not. That's nonsense. If something is wrong, it's wrong for everybody. So, but what happens when you have both platforms and both parties, policies and ideals that are in the platforms that go against? Well, then you get into this situation where, I mean, we still have as citizens and as Christians and as Catholics the duty to do our civic responsibility, and one of them is voting. So this is a pretty serious thing that we have to take very, very seriously. So what do we do? So I think the answer here to this question is, well, you can study both platforms, both parties, what both candidates are saying. Then you have to study a little bit their history. Because one thing that, I mean, again, that I'm sure you know very well, is that politicians sometimes do a lot of talking, and then they talk one thing and then they act a different one. And so you also have to know the person and the thing, and be savvy and smart. And in the end, you have to use the brain that God is giving you and your reason to study the thing carefully, the people carefully, and then you have to make the most informed decision you can. When sometimes the difficulty is when none of the choices are good. And then what happens? Well, then our obligation is to do the one that will be the less bad, because that's better than more bad. So that's one thing. And second, you also have to think about that not all moral issues are equal. Some are, this is, for example, I'll give you an example, the life issue, the pro-life, abortion. The bishops in this country have made it very, very clear as the Episcopal Conference that, again, that no all moral issues are the same, that you cannot put in the same level, for example, immigration and abortion. They both are very important. And there has to be just way of taking care of immigrants. I think everybody agrees where the disagreement comes is what does that mean exactly. But it's not the same to put that at the level with killing people. It ain't the same. It's not the same to tell somebody who's trying to cross the border, sorry, you can't come in, or to kill them. It's not the same. So the abortion issue, the life issue is, so you can say, for example, hey, this person is pro-life, but he is against immigration. Well, what do you do? They're both the choices. One is much more important than the other. And this is where you end up, there's no politician that's going to be perfect on all issues. But you just kind of have to get the one who, on the most important issues, is at least getting them more than the other. And so, yeah, sometimes you just have to say, well, I wish we had better options. But in this case, the two options that I had, this one, when it comes to these world issues, is not as bad as the other. Sometimes, fortunately, that happens. And you just, and then you just use your reason, your prudence, the virtue prudence, get good advice, good counsel, and then you do the best thing that you can. Does that make sense, Mary? Any questions on that? I mean, I think here, one thing that is also is worth saying is that we have to pray for our politicians. And then we also have to pray that there will be good people who will get into politics so that we have good options. I have to say, to give you an idea, there are some people out there who are doing really good things. They're not very well known, but there are some people. One example that I can give you that I lived a few years ago, this is now maybe 10 years ago. Maybe it's not 10, but we were, the new election cycle was starting. So this is maybe a couple of years before the presidential, maybe a year before presidential, where people were getting ready to put their nomination for both parties, right? And a very good man has a lot of money and influence here in California. He would share with me that he was trying to do something and what we could be doing. And I have to say this is a man who will say he's a Republican. And so he was asking me, what could I do? And this and that. And he told me some of the politicians he knew and other people who are not politicians, but they're very involved in funding campaigns and organizing. So they're behind the scenes people. And I share with him that, one thing that I see a lot of Republicans having not a very good understanding of the immigration issue in particular. But they don't quite get it. They send them all back. And they tend to get here too much on the spirit of the law. They're breaking the law, and therefore there is wrong. And it's true, they're breaking the law. They're coming illegally, question. But I said, hey, there are certain laws that you should allow for a little more flexibility here, because the law is for the people, not the people for the law. Mm-hmm. And the laws have to have mitigating factors to take care of people. The law is unjust, and there are certain laws that are unjust laws. I think our immigration laws, in some ways, they are unjust, and they're not as good a law as they should be. And so I proposed to him, why don't we do a retreat for these peoples? We'll do a 2 or 3 day retreat. I think it was a 3-day retreat. And let's do it in Mexico. And I bet you most of these people had never been to Mexico. And I bet you most of them were Catholic, not all of them, almost all of them. And they stood in Guadalupe, in the Villa of Guadalupe in Mexico City. And we got about, I don't know if it was maybe 12 of these people. And so we stayed, there's people with money. So we stayed in a very nice hotel in Mexico City. But basically, when we go to Guadalupe to the Villa every morning and we spend the whole day there, I gave them three reflections, I think, today. And then we have bananas, we try to watch, so we make it or make chocolate pepper, and it was really good. And then in the evening at dinner, we had a big, nice discussion about issues and moral issues. But it was interesting how many of them, and I spoke with everyone individually, they, as a result of this, they had a better understanding of this particular issue. And most of them had never been to Mexico. So it was kind of, I'm being there in Guadalupe and seeing all the good, simple people praying. It kind of opened their eyes, and it was good. I gave them all Archbishop Gomez's book on immigration, which, by the way, I think is one of the best things there is out there, understanding the immigration issue. Very short one. Let's say I think it's called Immigration in America. If you type Google Archbishop Gomez immigration, to the book box, it's very, very good. It gets a little bit of the history, and it has a very, very deep Catholic understanding of it. So they all had the book and they read it. And I thought as a result of that, they had a better, in fact, one of them ended up almost clinching the Republican nomination. I'm looking at names here, but and he had clearly made a nice change on this particular pro-life. He was right on, and many other issues, a very good man. So anyway, that's a long answer to the question. I don't know if anybody has any more. That's what I would answer to that question. Is that more or less clear?
I have a question about that. How do you speak when other Catholics who are not espousing Catholic tradition around these things? It's a clear set of rules, especially regarding on abortion, right? And I'll run into some Catholics who just decide not to believe that at all and be like, no, her body, her choice, or something like that. So how do you, as and I'm a new Catholic as well, so I'm still learning to even evangelize Catholic values amongst other Catholics as well. But that's actually what I find most of right now. Is Catholics not believing or espousing or evangelizing Catholic values?
Yeah. No, good question. Yeah, I was at a lecture not too long ago that Ryan Anderson gave. You know who Ryan Anderson is? He's the head of the ETPC, the Catholic and Public Policy Center in Washington, D.C. He's written a number of books. His most recent books on abortion issue about marriage. And he wrote, when Harry became Sally, a little bit of 100. Yeah, Sally. It's very, very smart, very good, and a good friend. And he said in doing his lecture something that made me very sad, but unfortunately it's true. He said that all we would have to do for the United States to be a pro-life country is to get rid of all the Catholics in Congress. If you just all the Catholics in Congress left, we would be pro-life. It was a pretty sad thing, right? I mean, right now we have a president who's very pro-abortion. And up to very recently, we have a Speaker of the House who was very pro-abortion. And most of the, unfortunately, the Catholics in Congress are. It's sad. It's a very sad thing, right? So your question is good. I think the first thing we need to do is to pray for people. And if these people are friends, you go, boy, obviously. Second, I think is try to inform yourself well, understand, like the abortion thing. Because the key is not to throw things at people. And it's not even to engage in just fighting or arguments for the sake of argument. I find that the most useful thing normally is actually ask the question. Be very respectful. Always assume that people have good intentions. I mean, I think people in general are good. I mean, there are some people who are corrupt and stuff, but there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of influences on people. There are a lot of people who really feel pressured by their environment. So, if I say I'm pro-life, I'm good here. Right. They can't. Yeah. And they're good, but they're weak. And it's how we strengthen them so that they will. So it is to be very understanding and good and very loving towards people. I think it's critical. Instead of no. Then ask good questions. And instead of you feeling that you're put in defensive, which is, I think, what happens sometimes. You feel like, whoa, now I have to, I'm on the ropes here. I have to, and you're not. I mean, this is have the courage and also the security, the strength of that the truth is on your side. And the truth always wins sooner or later, right?
Right.
And so, but I think inform yourself well, learn there's some good arguments, there good ways of explaining things. But again, not for the sake of argument. But in my experience, maybe for other people it's different, is that the thing that is most useful is always ask them questions and try to really understand where they're coming from themselves. And listen, okay, your pro-abortion, why? Explain that to me. I want to understand where you're coming from. So, well, because I think this is a woman's right to choose. That's typical. Okay. Yeah, you can say, well, I'm also totally for that. Mm-hmm. So then we agree. We both agree that a woman and a man, so anybody has the right to choose. So I agree with you. Mm-hmm. The question is to choose what?
Right.
And they said, well, that's a woman's body.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, well, explain that to me. What do you mean by that? Are you saying that the baby that is in the womb is part of the woman's body or is alive inside of a woman's body? Because that's a difference. Mm-hmm. Is that baby an organ? Mm-hmm. Or is this another separate life that can survive outside? Because now we're using kind of funny semantics here. So I just want to understand. So you actually think that baby is the woman's body? How can you say that? Because that baby comes out and it can live totally separately from the mother. Mm-hmm. So when you start asking these good questions, they kind of, you're making them think. You may not win them all because usually what happens when you get into this back and forth, they feel that they're losing and that, well, you understand, and they can get belligerent because they're losing, right? And then even at that moment, just, hey, listen, please, I'm trying to understand it. I really want to. I don't want to argue for the sake of argument. Obviously, I have a different opinion that I thought about very carefully, and I want to listen to your argument. I want to understand. And then I hope I also can listen to mine. But to understand, there's these questions that I think is important. You'll make them uncomfortable and you're planting seeds. They may not come around. Again, I think a lot of people are caving because they feel they have to, they feel forced and all of these things. And we have to understand that you're planting seeds. And they see that you're polite and you're loving, that they're arguing for the sake of arguing, that you're not demonizing anybody. And who knows? And then you're praying, you're planting those seeds. And again, God is at work, grace is at work, truth always wins in the end. I think sometimes you could even, and this is amazing because technology now, as medicine advances, obviously makes sense, is more and more we not need, and it's going to come to a point where viability, before they used to say, well, that's not, the arguments that are used for abortion now are completely different than the way with Roe v. Wade came. That was a completely different argument. Of course, they're changing because they're losing all the arguments, so they kind of come up with new slogans that makes them sound good. But as soon as you start asking these questions, they kind of come. One thing that I found, I don't know if you've ever done this, but saying this, if you really want to know, come with me to one of these women's clinics that are, and let's look at how the 3D silhouette. Because when they see that three-dimensional baby inside of the woman, and you say, hey, can you honestly tell me that that's just a woman's body? That's a baby. And how consistent it is that because ultimately in the end, as far as I can see, what determines whether or not that baby can live is whether or not the woman wants it. Mm-hmm. And then that's what it comes to. If the mother wants the baby, everybody goes, oh, this is so pure, beautiful. Oh, what a wonderful thing. And in fact, if anybody harms that woman and anything happens to the baby, you pay for two crimes, right? Which is amazing. But if the woman doesn't want the baby, automatically it loses all rights and all things. And that's not a baby. That was a woman's body. It's amazing how, and so you have to tell them that, hey, if the mother wants the baby, and somebody comes and kills our baby, would you say that's murder? Or you saying, no, that's just damage a part of the woman's body? That is, or would you think that is, ask these questions and see how it goes.
Right.
You will see that. And again, with great patience, a lot of understanding and love, but we got to win by our love. Instead of seeing doesn't matter what's going to win. Huh? Did I answer the question?
Absolutely.
Good. Any other things? We'll go to the next, because Lisa's getting nervous.
Brilliant. Great.
Next question. How to find fulfillment and joy when your life is not meeting expectations and timelines. Let me read that again. How to find fulfillment and joy when your life is not meeting expectations and timelines. And this will take 2 hours. We don't have 2 hours. So let me see if I can be. First of all, I think to understand what real joy and fulfillment means. What does it mean to find joy? And what is real joy and real fulfillment? This is very important. Because if you make your joy and your fulfillment, basically your happiness, depend on your expectations, then you're in for trouble. That's not it. So first, I think it's understanding what is real happiness and how do you achieve that happiness, right? I think in the end of the question is that, And so, again, we don't have the 2 hours, but I say the secret to happiness ultimately is discovering what the will of God is for you and then to follow it. Why? Because God created you. He created you for a purpose. And that purpose and that mission is God created you for that purpose. So that's what's really, really going to make you happy and fulfilled. Not what you think, but what God thinks, because He knows you better. He created you. So how do you actually become really fulfilled and happy? Not so much, hey, I have these expectations. This is what I want to do. So if I achieve those things, then I'm going to be happy. That ain't going to work. It's going to be, what is the will of God? What does God want for me? Because He comes from the one who created me and loves me. And so He knows better than you do what's really going to make you happy and fulfilled. So discover that and then do it, and you will be really, really happy and fulfilled. Even though it may not be. I'll give you an example. This is very personal. The last thing in the world that I thought I would be is this. Okay? I didn't want to do this. I remember, in high school, I said, hey, what? Never. Never. I said, I want to get married. I want to have a lot of children. That's like, I come from a big family. So I said, are you kidding me? And look, God does have this sense of humor. Here I'm wearing this thing, when it's 150,000 degrees out there, and I'm pretty happy about it. Right? And I think I'm pretty fulfilled. There's no perfect happiness on this earth, obviously. We'll get that in heaven, but there can be a lot of happiness here. Sure. I wouldn't change myself, but and I will that. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but I think I'm pretty happy with myself. I want everybody to have the same, right? Yeah, but I think that's, you pray, you do, you get spiritual direction, people to help you so that you can discover basically that God wants your needs. And then you do that. What happens is sometimes our own ideas get in the way, or we see other people, and I'll get to one of the questions that I read back. And we start kind of thinking, and we can get very complicated. And while I thought that by now I was going to be married, and now I'm only one, and I'm still married. I start exaggerating everything. Like my life is over, and all of that. And I say, hey, calm down. And don't, let God do His saying. He has a plan. We got to trust it. And the other thing, and this is very important, I think, with this question about meeting expectations and timelines. The thing of the timelines is a very dangerous thing, and you're going to let them go. because you have your timeline, God has his, and you just never know. And and I think there is a big issue here in terms of trust in your Father God who loves you and He knows. I mean, you just gotta trust. Probably sometimes we think we know better. I remember when I was a little kid, growing up, my mom's car was one of these Mini Coopers. But before they were popular, I always thought, Mom, you started a trend, not that, cool. I mean, we thought it was always a cool person's car. It's a tiny little, nothing, Yeah, but you could put all 9 kids in the cooker and systemically. But I remember before for some number 2 on the 9. So the other ones, the things can full, the car got pretty full by the end. But I remember always asking her to let me drive. I was 2 years old. She said, Mom, let me drive. And she would always say, no. And I would get very upset. So at 3 years old, I can drive. And so as long as she had, I was pretty, well, thank God she didn't let me. I mean, I thought it was awful. I thought I knew better. This is what's going to make me happy. My timeline was I was 3 years old. I'm ready to drive, right? Well, she didn't think so. And thank God, because I wouldn't be here. You would have somebody else giving this thing. But again, and then the final thing I would say on this question, because I think it's irrelevant, is this. We tend to, and again, this would be a whole other thing, and I don't have time, but I'll give you the essence of this. We have a very strong tendency. It comes from us, but it also, and I don't want to blame him for everything, but we can blame him for a lot of things, the devil. And one of the things he really, really wants us to fall into is to either get stuck in the past, and he works really hard at this, get our mind out of things and have a lot of regrets and grudges and a lot of sometimes guilt, sometimes a lot of shame, things we've done. And he really wants us to get stuck there. It's amazing. And as soon as, whenever you begin to immediately, he starts putting all, because the devil can put thoughts into your head. This is the angels, the devil is a falling angel, have this power, this capacity. They cannot read your mind or your heart. Only God can do that. But he can put thoughts. Your guardian angel, who's a good angel, puts good thoughts. The devil and the other demons, the other fallen angels, put bad thoughts, temptations. And so the devil would bring all these memories, things, so that you were stuck in the past, regrets, wallow in the old shame of that. And so, because if you're there, he's got you. Or the other thing he does, which in fact, in many ways is worse, is get you totally to the future. And timelines, this is why, and you begin to imagine, oh, this is what has happened. I thought I was I'm going to graduate with 4.0, then I'm going to have this career. Then I'm going to have, 18,000 million followers on X, on Twitter, whatever, and so many likes on my Instagram account. And then I'm going to meet this incredible guy who's going to be very holy. He's going to have 15 children, all of them, one better than the other. And one of them will be president of the United States. And then my husband and I will be canonized as the first couple from California. But then start making all of them. Or you also start getting into what ifs. Or what ifs? Well, what if this? Well, what am I going to do if I don't find the right guy? If I get fired from my job? What if, and then we begin to agonize. What if, what if I get cancer? What if, this? What if? And we get so anxious, and a lot of anxiety comes in, and that the devil loves that. So the last place, C.S. Lewis, have you read the Screwtape Letters? It's a great book. If you haven't read it, put it down there read the Screwtape Letters. It's an amazing book. It's basically C.S. Lewis is one of the greatest writers and apologists. But it's just very fun because it's a book about a very experienced devil, Screwtape, who's sending letters to his nephew, Wormwood, who is a newbie. He's a rookie. he's out there tempting for the first time. And yes, his patience. This is in right about, World War II in England. So his patient, as he calls it, this young Englishman, And so Screwtape is sending these letters, as what's called the Screwtape, to his nephew, giving him advice as to how to tempt. This is how you do it, They're very clever, and it really shows him. But one of the things that he talks about in this book is this point that I'm making. And at one point, Screwtape, the experienced devil, is saying the last thing you want for him is to be in the present. Because as soon as he's in the present, we've lost him. Because God is in the present. Mm-hmm. You see, God is not in the past. And he's not, God is an eternal present. We can only love in the present. We only have grace for the present because that's all we've got. So there's no grace for the past. It's gone. It's nothing. There's no grace for the future. It hasn't even arrived. So where you want to be totally, so again, I say this because this is one of the biggest mistakes that most people make. And it's taking them away from where they actually have the grace. And then you have people wasting on time, energy, and all kinds of things in the past and in the future. And just saying, hey, God is right there with you in the present. Just focus on it. And you will see. Forget the deadlines and all my timelines and everything. Precedents.
I was going to say, Father, there's a difference between intentions and overplanning, right? Like I'm just wondering what you think. Like if you just kind of say, like, okay, God, like these are my intentions, but guide me, to the right way. Like that's okay to plan to an extent, right? But just not too far, not like.
I mean, it's good to have certain things like, hey, I would go to both to get a good education, go to good college. I would love to, be a good nurse. I'm going to go to nursing school. There's nothing. I mean, that's a great thing. But then always with that openness, say something is happening. So, if all of a sudden before I go to nursing school, all of a sudden I get hit by a car and I'm a paraplegic, maybe I'll have to change my expectations. Maybe I have to be, something else. Who knows, right? There's nothing wrong with planning. But because planning is something you do in the present, and then you abandon that in God's hands. I mean, it's okay. My plan is to go to nursing school. Now, the sophomore in college, I want to study very hard and I want to take the courses that I need to take, and then I'm going to apply to nursing school. I mean, there's plans, but always saying, my God, if you have a different thing, let me know. And yours call you some openings. And that's it. Right? That makes sense.
Yeah. So, bad question.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I struggle with having been in business. And, it's all about meeting deadlines and timelines and creating systems to help you meet those timelines and deadlines. So I'm very used to creating a plan and creating a deadline to meet that plan. Because, and tracking everything along the way. Because, the saying goes, whatever gets tracked, gets measured, whatever gets measured is accomplished. Sure. It's like success. So how do we find the balance in between moving in a way that after we set our intentions and we give an abandon over to God, and obviously at some point life will happen to intervene and we have to pivot and whatnot. Right. But how do we reconcile moving in a particular direction that you have envisioned for your future?
Yeah.
Whilst saying, and I'm open to whatever God has for me, whatever pivot that he might want me to take or do or whatever, because there's just so many outside forces. Like no one expected COVID to happen. No one, hardly anybody was prepared for COVID to happen as well.
Sure.
It changed a lot of plans. And my grandmother used to say to me, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And so I find a lot of my effort being poured into creating goals and trying to meet those.
Yeah, but I would say there is key. Don't confuse professional things. Like a teacher has to plan the classes.
Mm-hmm.
Like a business person, you have to have, hey, what are the goals for the quarter, and what are sales goals, and how are we going to accomplish those? I mean, that's straight, that's normal. Political parties have to do their whatever, how we're going to run this campaign, what are we going to do? Hey, listen, even as a priest, not to say what are all the retreats that I have to give, all the homilies I'm going to have to give, and when I'm going to prepare. Right? Everybody, but that's normal. But again, it always involves the present. What do I have to do now?
Right.
So I accomplish those goals. But then when it comes to one's life, and the professional aspect is just one aspect of our lives, I think that's more than I understood with the question. So, I mean, in terms of, I'll give you another example. I mean, some people think that I can become a saint or a holy person in 1 year. If people come to me, some of spiritualism, Father, I've been going to Mass every day, and I've been praying the rosary every day for 2 months, and I'm still the same sinner. What's wrong? Listen, it's going to take a little more than 2 months.
Right.
Well, I thought that by now I would be meditating. Yes, okay. But well, listen, I don't see the angle, I say, well, listen, I don't think you're going to sit up and get to heaven, and I don't know if you wear it. Yes. So I agree with you on the professional thing. Of course, that we have to make sure that you're not applying the same thing to life in general.
Really. So that wouldn't be appropriate to apply.
No, I mean,
sort of the same aspect.
No, because when it comes to your relationship with God, the plan that God has for you, I mean, you got to be telling God, no, the plan is this or no. Right. And so this is what I understand. The fact that your thing, when you say, hey, God, you show me, and then you go in tune to what God is saying, to where God is guiding. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what about those periods of where, because I'm also super minor, but it's where.
No, listen, what I hear from men, so that you can, I hear from them. I'm going to say I agree. That I hear from one of them is that the women are control freaks. That's one of the things I Somebody know. It's getting fun. That's kind of. When they become monks, even worse.
But how do you approach those times where you have no idea? You're like, oh my gosh, I have no clue what is going on right now. I actually don't even know where to start making a plan. I don't know where to go. I have no idea what the first word, the last word, like any sort of bit of my plan is. And I feel like that obviously quick answers like surrender, like, no. But I can be like, well, how do you make money? I would do something. And you have something that.
Yeah, that's a good. I think the plan is.
That's the one.
What do you have to do today? Now, you say, well, I don't know. I don't have a plan for next year, but don't worry. What about for today? What are you going to do today? And that's a lot simple because that's all you got.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I think if you really put yourself into today and now, and you stay with it, eventually you begin to, because the door opens, so things to say, well, I got this job. I don't like it. I don't know where I'm going. I feel kind of stuck here. Okay. Just stay with it. Work very hard. Pray. Be open. And right now, I just have no clue where I'm going. Okay. You have a job, right? Yeah. Well, into work and work really well. I'll give you an example. This is beautiful. It's a young man I know. He got married about 4 years ago. And basically his story is there's this very successful businessman. He lives in Broadway. He's a wonderful man, really good man. And interesting, he never married. And he's now his late 60s, very successful. He has a couple of companies. And because he never married, never had any children, he was looking for somebody he could mentor and somebody become almost like a son to one, but even to help him because his company was growing and he would like to pass it on to somebody. And this man, he loves his food. And it's funny because he's got all the money he wants and everything, and yet he loves junk food and fast food. So he was coming from some big meeting trip, whatever, and he stopped at a McDonald's about midnight, one of those 11, whatever. And he was there all by himself, eating his, Big Mac and sides, which he shouldn't have done, but he. And there's this young kid, a young man there, working at the McDonald's with McDonald's uniform, and he was cleaning. He was only cleaning, and he had the thing and the floor. And then he saw that he took a toothbrush and started cleaning the tiles, the thing in between. And he was shocked. So he called him on and said, "Here, come over, sit down." And then said, "What are you doing?" So I'm cleaning. And he said, "Yeah, but I mean, we used it for And he said, "Well, they need to be clean too. And I see that with the thing, it doesn't get into the little chain. So it just occurred to me, I have a toothbrush and he said, "You mean you weren't told to do that?" I said, "No, I mean, he said, "I want to do my job." Why not? Yeah. And the guy was so serious that he said, "Hey, listen, kid, I have a party coming up, and he throws a lot of things at his home in Brentwood, and he says, it's a lot of fun. I've been to a few." So he said, "Hey, I'm going to have this big dinner party. I want somebody to present, the people, and then it's a lot of cleaning to do. I'll hire you for the evening. How much you pay here? So I'll double that." So he said the kid came, and the party went on, and it was late. So he told him, "Hey, listen, I'm going to bed. We've done it all." And this kid said, "No, listen, I'll finish this. I'll take care of it. You go to bed." And he said when he came down the next morning, I mean, he had done all the things. The kitchen was in black. The whole thing was in black right away. I never seen anything like it. He just couldn't believe it. So he said, "I was thinking about it. So I offered him the job in my company, and now he's running." But he said, "I discovered somebody who really worked well, put him up, and all his whole self. I mean, he was working at McDonald's in the graveyard shift. He was cleaning tiles."
Yeah.
And not because he discovered, and he says, "Shit will take Brian, but he does no matter what. But he doesn't win." I don't know what his plans were, but right now he was working for McDonald's. I mean, his job was to clean that. So he said, "I'm going to do this the very, very best I can." When we do that, things go really well. It makes sense. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about where I want to pay. If you work in McDonald's, keep cleaning those tiles, and you will see that great things will happen. For sure. Any other questions? Go to the next.
Next.
Okay, next question. Is it ethically, morally wrong to shop at stores or restaurants that support opposing moral ideologies? Should we be held responsible for where the money from our purchase goes? This is a very good, typical moral question that comes up. I think there are several principles here because it's a very difficult and complicated thing sometimes because to know where all the money goes, where all the things are, where all the things are. Because otherwise, I mean, basically you couldn't fly, you couldn't buy anything. It's might as well be in a farm in the middle.
Yeah.
And so I think here the moral principles would be that first, that you cannot directly do anything evil or support evil. You cannot cooperate with evil directly, right? That's a moral principle. Another one would be that to help is that there are companies that what they do is a good thing and is morally acceptable. And it may be that they may do other things that maybe are not as morally good or whatever, but what you're doing and what you're using is morally good and acceptable. And there are companies that do good and they do everything, but they may get involved in investments of their whatever that maybe are not so good. And then there are companies that do their business is totally okay, but they may promote an ideology or whatever that is not good. I'll give you that when I'm just saying that the last thing that I just said, typical example will be the Bud Light, people at 87, they take a stand on the trans issue, which is a terrible thing. And so I mean, I was never a Bud Light guy, but now I'm not, right? I'm not gonna, why am I gonna buy something that is being used to promote something that is probably wrong, right? So, I mean, for example, I mean, just about every single drugstore sells birth control. Does it mean then that you're going to have to now start making your own medicine?
Yeah.
You have to get CVS or Walgreens or whatever, right, and buy. And because, I mean, again, their goal and most of what they do is good. They're providing a good service. It's true they also do some, but that's a mean you're cooperating with evil. Even working. I mean, I've been asked, can I work at CVS if they're selling birth control? So yeah, of course you can. What happens if you're a cashier and somebody comes with, the birth control or the condom? And I mean, I'm not bringing this thing. The people who are responsible will be the executives who make those decisions. I can control the company. If not you. Again, most of what you can never do is directly do something that is evil. But in that case, you're not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then when it comes to there are choices sometimes like that you can make. You have a choice between flying American Airlines or United Airlines. And I know United Airlines is promoting and has this big campaign for whatever that is bad. And listen, I want to fly American, sorry, United. United lost my business or whatever. I mean, sometimes you have these choices and you can, just use your own judgment and prudence to say there's certain things I'm not going to, although I could, I just don't want to promote that. For example, now I tell everybody, forget going to the Dodgers games. I mean, after what I did, why would you be going to any of their games? I hope they go under and they lose everything until kingdom comes. Under the accountable census, because they used to be very Catholic and very open. A lot of these people are very upset. It's just at the level of the board. And I happen to know what happened. I mean, most of the board were okay. There was just one person who really pushed this and then got the media to, shame the rest of the board to agree. And like, they came. There's a lot of team because they're afraid. Yeah, but that's too bad. Yes.
Although this is like more about politics, but it kind of relates to making choices. If let's say, isn't that to be practical? Let's say about abortion and say, okay, if we have laws that are in between where they're going to reduce the number of abortions, where they would be kind of allow it up to the first term, let's say, but actively thinking on the ground and kind of allow us to reach a middle ground. And then the result will be less abortion. Is that bad?
No, I mean, that's the nature of politics, right? And this is one of the things that actually is interesting that sometimes people don't understand. And I would say, here's where you can just, let's call it more conservative, traditional Catholics, where I think sometimes they're the worst enemies because they can totally, and the thing is, politics is not sometimes the only thing you can get is not the ideal, but at least it's better. I mean, I've seen very good people, very good Catholics in Congress support a particular bill that, it still allows abortion, but it's trying to bring it down to more reasonable. How come he or she, is incredible, that's so immoral? No, it's not immoral. It's called politics. You just have to, sometimes you cannot, I mean, in fact, I think we're making a lot of mistakes here because particularly on the abortion issue, I think the question is we need to change the culture. And then the law will be filtered. But just changing the law is not going to do it. I mean, clearly that the backlash after the Roe v. Wade referendum has been, fierce. And not that I don't think, I think it was a great thing. But what shows us is that we have to win the culture war. And we have to, so that as the culture changes, that will change also. And that means that right now, obviously we're not ready, it seems, for it. But what about saying, hey, what about, restrictions and this and that, which would save a lot of lives. And yeah, it's an idea, but right now, this all we can get is get it.
Right.
I mean, there are these prudential decisions. For example, I'll give you a similar thing. Now, a lot of people are attacking a lot. Some people are attacking Pius XII because he did not speak out more forcefully against Hitler, you know, and he did not speak out more clearly about certain things. But what poor Pius XII was doing, he decided, I think the best thing we can do is to try to save as many as we can, using all the church connections and all the things. If I speak out, all it's going to do is get Hitler and rage. And then it's just going to be worse. So he took this quiet. He was very measured in what he said, never agreed, very measured. And then in the meantime, we're just trying to save as many as he could. And he saved a lot of them. In fact, so much so that the head of the Jewish community in Rome became a Catholic. And his baptismal name is Eugene, which was the name of the Pope. Eugene himself. I mean, that's how, because he saved and healed so many people. Now, the bishops in Holland decided to take a very outspoken approach and really condemn and go all out because they felt they had to. I'm not judging them. But what happened? The reprisal was so strong. They went so that they killed not only Jews, but also, Edith Stein was one of the ones who died because of that. Right? It's a prudential thing.
Right.
And so sometimes you just gotta make this. There's the political, there's the thing, and sometimes it's pretty tough, and many times you don't have very good chances.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Yes.
On the kinds of like work and like professional side of that kind of same idea, if you are working for, first of all, an area where there's like a lot of money, like for example, if you're in like investment and then like that area where people are managing like a lot of money, there's like a lot of like wealth disparity, like that is something that I feel like generally economically goes against like Catholic teachings. Is there something wrong with working in those areas where you're working with people with so much power and influence, but like you don't necessarily have power and influence, that you're like working above them, and like you're basically like constantly touching money and things like that, and it isn't necessarily.
Money's not evil. Money is just money. It's what you do with it, right? The world just, we need money to buy things. You cannot function without it, so to speak. I think is what you do with it. The inequality, obviously, is something that is not good because, God made the world for everybody and the earth for everybody, and we all have to share in it. At the same time, and this is kind of when it comes to private property and resources, the social doctrine of the church, which I encourage you to study well. The church has always been, and there is a fundamental right to private property and to earn what you work.
Yeah.
And if you work hard and you invest and you think to have that return, right? Hopefully, at the same time, we all have to live solidarity. It's a very important virtue. It's very Catholic, it's very Christian. I know with all of that wealth and all of that, I want to put it to good use for the world, for other people, to give it, to take care of the most needy. I don't think it's fair, and I think it's unjust and immoral just to say that people who are wealthy are evil just because they have all money. That's nonsense. We have to encourage them and teach them and help them to be very generous and to good with it.
Right.
And I know a good number of very wealthy people. And, yes, they have the mansion and they have the thing, but they also do tremendous amount of good with their money, including their businesses, the huge amounts of people that they employ, that they provide for them. They all of these things. You can't say only one about Elon Musk, but the guy's providing millions of jobs for people.
Right.
Welfare doesn't do that. Right? And I think the way personally, there is a moral thing of a matter of things here. And I think the problem that we have right now in this country is that welfare is becoming such a thing that is taking the incentive out of work instead of incentivizing and want people to work. And that's because we get our dignity and our sense of self-worth from what we work, from what we do, and tell people, don't worry, just stay home and we'll pay you. That goes against all moral principles, especially of the dignity of the human person. People don't need money, they need to work, and the government should be in the business of making sure that everybody has a job that pays them enough to live, not by giving them a handout. That's imperative.
If you do live like below the poverty line and you are on food stamps with the intention to one day rise out of poverty, is that okay?
That's a different story. But I think what I'm seeing more and more, especially in California, is terrible for this. I'm an economist. You could train. Before I was wearing and saying I was an economist. So I've studied this a lot. And in fact, I worked for a while. I was, because part of my training was with the union, very particular, the teachers union. And let me tell you, it's obnoxious things off the charts. Okay? Terrible. But in public schools. But I think that's a different story. I mean, the government is there to provide a safety net, but always with the intention of getting them out of it. Okay? And right now, that's what we're trying to keep their people there for as long as possible.
It takes it away too from people who actually need it. That's just
but you're robbing people of their dignity in a terrible, basically buying. They're kind of slaves of the system.
You get used to it.
And it's a terrible thing. So anyway, did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Should we go to the next?
Yeah.
Right. All right. Everybody awake?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure? Next question. How to respond if someone invites me to a Pride Month event? Well, I think it's pretty simple. Hey, listen, I respect and love everybody, but that's not me. So, hey, thank you for the invitation. That's not something that I respect and love everybody, but that's not the kind of thing that I want to be supporting. And what do you mean? Are you against gays? That's not what I'm saying. But there is some agenda and a thing here that I don't agree with. I respect the people and they have a right to say whatever they want to say. This is a free country, God is free. But that doesn't mean that I would agree with the ideology that's behind it and is pushing certain things. So I really thank you for the invitation. I know it comes. I'm just, I'm going to stay home. Is that clear? Next, how important is tithing? As a young adult, is something I've always felt intimidated by. How important is tithing? Very important. Hugely important. I mean, God is giving us all kinds of gifts. And we have to pay back, so to speak. And it doesn't matter what church you go to, Catholic, Christian, whatever. And we have to be very, very generous with what we have and support the church and support, absolutely. The question here, I think, is how much? I'm really looking at your eyes. Well, how much are you getting? What I think I'm totally with Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who was great. She had some of the best one-liners. And one of them is, you give until it hurts. If it doesn't hurt, then it has to change. Well, seriously. And that's, with young people, and I do a lot of things with even high school kids, and I tell them, even whatever allowance you got, you gotta give it. And that means, you're not going to get it in your macchiato and stuff. Or you have to give up things. There is this wonderful man. He was a great mentor to me. He died 2 years ago and he was 99. And he was just one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And I mean, one of the things he told me that his father must have been an amazing guy. The way he did, there were 10 children, 9 boys, and the last one was a girl. Amazing. They said that their parents would always give them on Saturday, they would give them each, their allowance depending on their age. But the way they did it to help them be generous, the way they want them not to do this is that on Saturdays, on Fridays, they wouldn't have dessert and dinner. Not with their cake, wouldn't do whatever. And then they would give each one what they would have paid or whatever. It was a coin, or let's say maybe a quarter, and they would lay it all down $100 or whatever. And then on Saturday afternoon, when they would go to church for confessions, Saturday afternoon confessions, they would take that money and they would put it in the pool box, in the collection. And he said that since he was very little, he taught him, we're giving up dessert, and we're giving it to the poor. And he said it was ingrained in us, and it's never lacking us. He said, I learned. And I tell this to a lot of parents, and this is a wonderful way to teach your children to be generous. And for them, it was, because Friday came up, no dessert. And it was so good for them, And so it hurt. They were giving until it hurts. I mean, obviously, very wealthy people, they have to give more. And that's why I think, some of the harshest words that Jesus in the gospel, he has is precisely for those who get attached to material things, and don't think that, the story of the rich young man, Jesus says, and get rid of other things, and then he didn't do it. And then the gospel says he went away sad. And it makes sense. When you're not being generous, when the heart gets attached to money or material things, it becomes sad because then the heart that was made to love, and love is always sacrificial, it begins to be choked by material things, and it's impossible. And that's why Jesus says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom, because and rich doesn't mean having a lot. You can have a little and be attached to it, and it's just as bad, or maybe worse. And so, how important is time? Very important. You cannot get rid of it. You cannot be generous, and it's gotta hurt. Interesting. This comes to mind now. But the rich and Mother Teresa, I just mentioned her. I had a chance to meet her once. I was a junior in college. I had one of my housemates who was from Chicago. I went to school in South Bend. And his oldest brother, was becoming one of the first 2 priests who were going to serve Mother Teresa's missionaries of charity. At the time, this didn't continue, but she started this kind of special house of formation training in Tijuana. And they were priests preparing to be priests for Mother Teresa. Then they moved to the Bronx. And so the first 2 were going to do their final vows in the Bronx in New York. And so my housemate, because I knew him and the family very well, they invited me, hey, you want to come to so we drove to New York from South Bend. It was a lot of fun. And I was so looking forward to meeting Mother Teresa. It was a huge fan, still am. It's living sane. And I was so excited. So we had a mass. One of the auxiliary bishops did the mass, and then Mother Teresa said a few words at the end of mass, and then there was going to be a reception for both families. The other priest, the other guy, was from Italy. I know that his parents came, I would say, but the family of my husband and family. So we basically control the situation. And but for a number of reasons, the 2 of us came to the reception a little bit after everybody else. They were already in the hall there in the church, and everybody was by the tables getting food and stuff. And Mother, with one of my hostmates' brothers, who's a priest, he's a religious priest, who at the time I was already very involved in Upper State. I wasn't a priest, I was a junior in college, but but I was very involved with it, and so was Mark. And this particular brother of his oldest brother, who's now the head of that's this religious order, is the head of it in Rome. And he's a wonderful guy, but he never liked Opus Dei. He's changed now, especially because of what happened at this moment. He was always criticizing God's Opus Dei is terrible. But he could, attacking moves. Okay. But so we walk into the place, and I was so nervous. I had to be. And during the mass, I wasn't close to where she was, but I was surprised that she was even tinier than in the pictures, But now I walked in, she was by the entrance talking to this priest. And so we walk in, and she wasn't tiny, she was super tiny. Like, you want to pull your magnifying glass. That's so incredibly cute. It was like the most amazing thing. So she sees us and says, come. I'm kind of nervous. And this priest says, oh, Mother, this is Mark and Luke, express a good friend of the family. Mother, they're both involved with Opus Dei. Opus Dei, the people who take care of the rich. That's how we were introduced. Like the sarcasm, the tone. And I just heard that, and my heart just started bouncing. Man, who's here? Mother Teresa. And my trip, I was like that. The poorest of the poor and the whole thing. So I said, but it was awesome. It was a big smile. Their smile didn't change. So she said, come. We kind of asked about it, so we didn't hesitating a little bit. And she grabbed our hands. And she was looking, and when a saint is looking at you, we say, I know she's looking at my soul right now. And I said, I hope it's good. The husband's good. She was looking at us in silence. And I said, wow. And it took her time. It was, And then she says, but I'll tell you one thing. So, she was talking to him, to the priest, with that introduction. She said, I'll tell you one thing. That most of the time, the richest are really the poorest and the ones who need the most help. And then she says, and she started asking questions. I remember looking at this priest. I almost saw that the swords. It was her. I didn't think he's a great at that. And he's changed a lot since then. When you get that wonderful, beautiful, gentle correction for Father, it's a testament to his, goodness and humility he changed, right? But it's true. Actually being attached makes you sad and also makes you very poor in terms of your soul, your heart, your everything, because you're poor in what's most important, which is love. That makes sense. Did I answer the question?
I just have a quick question about that.
Yeah.
Can you tie your time as well as your treasure? Of course, or instead of your treasure, or both?
No, I think we have to be generous with everything. For me, it's always treasure, time, and talent. Those three. You got to be very generous when, and the more we give, the more we receive in terms of every one thing. And I think it's all of them. Generosity to it. Yeah. Listen, we were created in the image and likeness of God. God is complete, total self-gift.
Right.
The more we mirror that, the more we do what we were made to be, which is to give, the more we get in terms of fulfillment, love, happiness, joy. Because that's what we were made to do and to be. That makes sense? Go ahead. Next question. How do you know when it's time to find new employment? What if no matter what you do, you feel you're not completely competent in your line of work? But this is, I think, more of a professional coach kind of question. But I would say, hey, get a good coach, get a good mentor, talk to some people who can give you good professional advice. Maybe that you're in the wrong profession, it happens. Sometimes people know exactly what they want to do from the time they are 3 years old, and some people bounce around until they find their thing, they finally their calling. And it's okay. I think sometimes we make the mistake of comparing ourselves. Well, everybody else seems to know, and I'm still, I'm 97 and still on the up. That's good. There, we celebrate that, and it's not a one thing I would say though is that because sometimes people, well, I'm praying, I'm asking God to tell me what to do. God is not going to tell you what to do profession. Like the good father he is, he'll try to tell you, hey, you got talent for these, you're good at these, get good advice. A father doesn't tell you, or a good mother, hey, this is what you have to do.
Right.
I hereby decree you're going to be, I mean, some parents do that and start, and you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a whatever, and you're going to be given an instructions. So, I mean, pray for light and guidance, but that guidance is going to come in the form of other human beings, people who know you, people who love you, and then bouncing around and hitting a few walls until you find the door, and then you go through it. That was sense. Right. Next thing. How long do you recommend young adults date for? What qualities should be looking for in their relationship and in the man before moving towards marriage? The answer is it depends. It depends. I mean, for somebody who is 19 and in college, maybe they need to date a little longer and there's some maturing to go through and all of that. If you're 27 and, you know, and you have, then you don't need to date as long. Also depends on circumstances, distance, the situation of the other person. But I would say under normal circumstances, people who are already in their late 20s, early 30s, and especially if you have good spiritual direction, which I always recommend to everybody, and you know, you get to know the guy, and it seems like the guy's mature and well put together. You don't need to pay super law. I mean, and once you get engaged, the church normally recommends, many priests follow this 6 months of engagement before, so you can add that too. But it's where you have a sense that I know it's gone well enough, and there's enough there. You're never going to have the certainty. You know, I'll tell you a very funny story that just happened. I was in Dallas for the YCP conference, and it was very funny. This is the last day, and so it was Saturday, and there was this event that actually somebody in the showroom had put together. You know, the matchmakers in the city, and Al is very funny. And so she had asked me, hey, can you come and support and be there to support? It wasn't fast, you know, kind of speed dating. It was kind of a hybrid in between. It was trying to play these games with people who meet each other. It was just very funny. And she didn't plan. I think she was overwhelmed because she thought that she was going to get 30, 40 people. It was 150 there. It was a phenomenon. And I warned her. I was actually meeting with Harrison Butker, now super famous, right before talking to him. And then I realized I'm late, so I was running to the ballroom where Alan had organized this thing. And I mean, the crowd just trying to get in. So I went inside. I mean, I say, Ali, how many people do you expect? I said, well, 30, 40. I said, yeah. It was a mess, but it was good. We had a fun mess. But if all of that was over, I went out, and then we're getting ready for the big final gala. And they had set up this little bar thing so you could get a drink. They give you your ticket. And so after a long day, I said, no, I'm not going to buy like a little. So I see a little, and I go, there's this wonderful couple right there. And we start talking. And where are you guys from? So I was in Detroit. Oh, that's great. What do you do? And he has a very good job. And he also, she has a very good job. And that. So I asked him, are you guys married? Oh, no. Well, we're dating. So that's great. So how long have you been dating? And he said, John, his name. He said, 2 years. So I kind of stopped. And I said, 2 years. Anna? He said, John. Yeah, great job. How old are you? He said, I'm 27. And I asked her, how old are you? He said, I'm 26. So I said, John, I mean, it just came from the heart. And I didn't think about it. They thought it's, you know, the hell I go, wait, running back. And he was kind of a little bit like, I'm a slave. What do you mean? So, John, you're 27 years old. You've been seeing this wonderful looking woman, and she seems totally for 2 years. What in the world are you waiting for? She was kind of a little bit speechless. Oh, man. And I look at her and says, "Funny, keep going. You're doing great." It's not things we left. So I said, "Well, John, well, Marty, I don't judge people. I don't do the same stuff for me. I think it's, if you don't know by now, this get going because it's not right." And anyway, he was a little bit, okay. And then we kept talking. I thought it ended very peacefully. And we got our friends to say goodbye. And then I go on and then I'm talking with another, there's so many wonderful people and so many non-stop reading people. So I'm working with another little group, and there's somebody come to turn around at his job. Said, "Oh, he's really upset." And the same father, "Can I talk to you in private?" Of course. So we've been so next to the chapel. That's not one in there. They said, "Well, Father, I just need to ask you something." So now I have a chum sound, and they said, "Can you bless it?" No, I was with its arm. So he says, "How do you know?" I said, "John, I thought I was hitting you hard." So now I'm doing it tonight. So where are you going to do it? So I'm like, I'm this great place in the hotel. It's little parents. It's going to be nicer. We're not on it. So what time? So we're after dinner. We're in the park. So okay, listen, I'm training. I hope she says yes. And then it happened. And then around 10 o'clock, whatever, I was there with a little group, and this all of a sudden, I tapped out and said, "Through it." I didn't do anything. I didn't want it. I was going there. It was square. So yeah, I would say depending on the age of the thing, it doesn't have to be great, and it doesn't take forever.
Right.
And what are the qualities? Says the question. You want somebody who's a good man, who has virtue. You want somebody who understands marriage and who has the same vision that you have of marriage. And it's clear that, marriage is correct, that is open to children. So there's not going to be any silly contraception, birth control, none of that which ruins marriage, basically. But it has the same vision in terms of how you're going to raise the children. Then you're going to raise them to God. And obviously, for Catholics, I always tell them, "Hey, please let me need to marry a Catholic," but it helps a lot. It helps a lot. And because otherwise it makes things much more complicated. Our marriage is already, so it's an incredible vocation. It's beautiful. That is not easy. That's why it's a sacrament, because you need grace for it. Without grace, it's pretty tough. And so you want if you get very strong, good Catholics, even better. If you don't, then it's gonna be more difficult. And certainly you need somebody who is going to respect you. And that's why, John Paul II is very strong on this. That's why chastity, purity is so important, especially always, but especially in worship. That's why you see in the statistics, those who engage in purity, premarital sex, or anything related around sex before marriage, the chances of that marriage and divorce just skyrocket. And it makes sense. I don't tell you, we are in a so hyper sexualized world. And actually, it's funny to me how women think that now they're more liberated because there's birth control and we see now more and more that women, especially celebrities, basically dress like prostitutes with glamour, and they're glorifying that. And then you see more and more of the women and girls doing exactly the same thing. And basically they're becoming slaves to what they think guys want. But it's true that the bad guys, that's what they want. They want sex and nothing else. And they're giving it to them instead, because all they're becoming is sexual objects to be exploited and to be used. And it's terrible what this is doing. And so you want a guy who has self-control and understands and will respect you. And that's something to be very clear from the get-go. And if the guy doesn't understand, doesn't want it, dump him as fast as you can. Of course, I unfortunately, I have to report I have both men and women, but women who really wonderful women, Catholic women, were very nice. Yeah, I know, but then once we get married, it's going to be fun. Listen, if the guy cannot live chastity before marriage, after marriage, it's going to be even worse. So you expect this guy to be faithful. Forget it. If he's not faithful now, he's not going to be faithful later. It's impossible. So don't be naive. Either he's being chaste and good and pure now, or you're just asking for trouble. That is how it works. Doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So I would say those are the things that, again, it doesn't have to be, the man doesn't have to be Catholic or Christian, but it really helps a lot. I have a sister. One of my sisters is married to a Jew. They'll practice in Jew. And my sister is awesome, and she's tough as nails. But it's made things, now the guy's almost there. Okay. He's almost there. And it's been almost 17 years now. Of marriage. And it was very funny when they had the first child, my nephew James, who actually comes every summer. He's coming in a few weeks. He spends the summers here. And James is a great kid. But when that was the first baby, and it's a boy, and for a Jew, this is very important. My brother-in-law's dad he was the head of the Jewish community in Madrid, where they're from England. They moved to Madrid. In my family, this marriage was very tricky because my parents, when they showed it, well, listen, there's probably 3 Jews who are more or less your age in all of Spain. And you go and you marry one of them. They were very opposed. She was poor, and my sister, so she was asking me for help. Hey, can you support me? And I said, yeah, if you do your homework, what do you mean? Ask him all of that. I put down 10 questions. Ask him these 10 questions, and if he answers the right way, I'm with you on. And he did. So I was supporting and many people. But anyway, the first baptism, it was kind of tricky. It was the first, and the father-in-law announced that he was going to be there at the baptism, which had everybody, whoa, the average was getting. My sister was very nervous about this. She was, why are you not saying the hum? I said, don't worry. No. What are you going to say? Relax. I came out in the church and I was looking at a sea of yarmulkes in the back. They were standing in the back, I made a joke. Yeah, welcome. This is not a bar mitzvah. This is a baptism. But it was really because when, we did the liturgy of water baptism, and I say, family, you want to come? The church there, I see this huge baptismal fund. So you can come and probably shouldn't have, but everybody, her mother came. And all my 8 siblings were all there, not just my sister. Mm-hmm. So I took the baby, James, and I get it to the dad, my brother-in-law, Sandy, because he was a little sheepish. I said, no, Mark, you take him. Oh, God, God, I let you say, no, but you're the dad. You're his baby. So he was very funny. He was, and so that key moment. And when I take the little, shell there, and I kind of, especially my 2 sisters, everyone was the mom, and all my siblings whispering, so Marky, get the 2 of them, get the 2 of them. It was one of those, and everybody started laughing, because everybody heard it in the church. And he himself was very fun. So in and get the 2 of them. Yes, sir. But it's more complicated. Where if the most important thing, which is God and your faith, when you don't share that with the man you marry, it just makes for more complicated. But also for the children. it's interesting to see now to see my nephew how he has this really now he gets older, just from 17 with his dad. Said, Dad, come on, I used the one pushing his dad, so now I think it's pretty close. But it made it for a trickier thing. But although to his credit, one of the things you got to bear with him, and he does. So that was a huge help. Any other?
I have a question over there.
Yeah.
In some circles, there's like people put emphasis on going out to date somebody we can be like shadows and saying in churches you like if I like go to a church and that's like I want to date somebody who also goes to that. Like and that like separates people. In some sense they're like, I don't want to date somebody who goes to a different match that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's good and healthy.
Yeah.
Honestly, because if you love the church, if you love the mass, you may have preferences, and I prefer giving them more time to go to TLM than able. But that's something you need to talk and see. I think to me, if you're somebody who's just not tuned to receive all the mass of the solar rays, I would say, hey, didn't see there because something wrong. I had somebody recently tell me, and it's actually a famous person, tell me that, no, when you're praying back, God listens more to your prayer. And I say, oh, sorry, that's absolute nonsense. In fact, I think that's heresy. In the Middle Ages, and with that partnership, come on, so-and-so, Father so-and-so. I say, I'll be happy to talk to Father so-and-so anytime they want. Finally, one place in the scriptures or the catechism or any document of the church going back to the Council of Jerusalem that says that God listens more to their prayers when they're in Latin or crying out loud. But some people have this,
and it doesn't.
Nonsense. What do you think is the biggest spiritual challenge facing young women today? Well, I can answer this in a number of ways. I'm going to have to think a little bit about this one a little bit. But let me just say this. It's a good question. I could use a lot more time for this. Let me just say this. I think the biggest spiritual thing is common to all human beings, men, women. It doesn't matter the age or their condition in life. I think the biggest spiritual challenge is always pride. I just say that. It's always the one thing in terms of challenge, temptation, whatever you want to call it. This was the sin of the devil. It was the sin of Adam and Eve. And it's the one thing that I hate, the pride, that wanting to, attribute to myself, my own things, my wanting to, be seen, all of that. So, but I think the question is nice. It's calling to in another, although I would say it doesn't want. That's why regular confession, spiritual direction is so important. But I would say, other things, and they're spiritual, but they're challenges, period. There's a spiritual component to this. And I think there are several. One of them, I think in general, is what I was getting at when men say that women are control freaks, which I think is unfair, by the way. But I think there is something there, and it's not just women, but I think it may affect women more because women are mothers, and their tendency is to create a home and to protect and to one, it comes with the territory. That I think what can happen is, there is a certain amount of spiritual challenge in wanting to be in control and not letting God do his thing. And that includes, it's funny, finding their sense of self-worth and self-identity in what others think or say. But then what that leads is to a lot of women to a desire, a very important drive to want to fit in, to want to be part of the group, to want to be seen as And that's, I mean, like, for example, the whole trans thing is affecting at least 90%, whatever. I don't know the stats for sure. It's these girls, guys. And why is that? And I think it's part because of what I'm saying. It's a real issue, boys, and, with the girl. Because if there is the sense that this is, I think girls are much more affected by this.
Social contagion.
Yes, but it comes from wanting affirmation, wanting recognition. That's why it's, again, the stats that I keep reading, it's amazing. The suicide, especially among girls, is all the charts compared to the boys. Because, if they post whatever on Instagram and they don't immediately get 100 likes, they go into deep depression because I didn't get it, right? And I think this is a real challenge. I think there is, and the spiritual is emotional, it affects in all kinds of ways. And I think in part this is why feminism, the role kind of feminism is really affecting. I mean, even all this movement, as an example, within the church, to say that women have to be priests, which is complete total misunderstanding, not only of the priesthood, which is service. They see it as power, which is already, I want power, like the priestly service. Priestly service is not power, but they have this view. And I think a lot of feminism is saying this struggle. It, in a way, is Marxism applied to the sexes. As well, the men, there's no question that historically, culturally, in certain things, that women have been kept, and that there's no question about it. And I think we've come a long way. But from there to go into, again, there's this Marxist understanding, man, and this power struggle, and now and this is, by the way, what I think. And I don't agree with everything he said, and certainly I don't agree with the way he says certain things. But I think that Harrison Butker hit a chord. And again, I hope he has good spiritual gravity. I had a good long conversation with him in Dallas. And unfortunately, this didn't come up. I would have given him advice. But I still think the main point he was making on finding love and marriage and understanding, that was very good. I think it's been totally. But so I would say, that is a big one. And as a spiritual, it's a human, it's an emotional, it's psychological challenge that we need to, and you're in the middle of it. And I think that's, for example, what leads a lot of women. I mean, one of the biggest struggles is constantly comparing themselves with other children. What about, there's, you could walk into a room and they're already comparing what everybody else is wearing, what everybody else, and then, and it's a terrible thing, but it's there. And I think it needs to be addressed and be very comfortable with who you are. I think, again, there's all the body shaming and all these things is part of this. It goes beyond that. But it's that's why, to me, there's a big issues. Understanding of motherhood is a big one. And it's a very important one. It's funny, today I was in Alhambra with the Carmelites. From time to time, they asked me to go there and do a few things with them. And some want to talk. And it's even interesting for them. And it's a very particular vocation, the religious vocation. And it's a very beautiful one. But I see that the ones who don't understand, and they're all wonderful. The ones I know personally, and in general, they all look very angelic with their habits and everything. Good. But the ones who don't understand that they're called to spiritual maternity of sorts, then they have difficulties. Because then what is this all about? Because just like a father, a priest has to find his spiritual heritage as fathers. In every occasion in the church, even for people who are called, to live apostolic celibacy or whatever. Everybody is actually found in the end their eternity of eternity, because we all have to engender not just physical, biological children, but spiritual children. There's this beautiful one, St. Paul, like in the reading today, it calls Timothy my beloved son. Very beautiful saying, right? And so I don't know if I answered the question. Did I? It's more, I would have to think more about it. Because it was, is that good?
Yeah, thank you. Sounds good. That's really good.
Thank you. Nice to be with me.